What's up, everyone? It's me, Chris, back again. Here to break down UFC 96 coming up this weekend, Jackson versus Jardine. I'm not going to go too in-depth on the undercard, but I will rip through some of these predictions real quick on these fights. First up, I got Aaron Riley versus Shane Nelson. I got Riley winning that either by a knockout or decision. Just think, he's hard to take down. That's where Nelson excels, and on the feet, I think Riley's much better. We got Tamden McCrory against Ryan Madigan. Don't know anything about Madigan. Do know about McCrory. Actually, I kind of like McCrory. I'm a bit of a fan of his. Even if I wasn't, though, I'd still pick him in this fight just because he's got the experience in the UFC. And he's a pretty well-rounded fighter, and I don't know anything about Madigan, so it's hard for me to pick a guy that I don't know anything about. Next up, Tim Bosch, Jason Brills. Gonna go with Bosch. Haven't really seen much from Brills. Bosch is hot and cold, but seems like he can usually beat the guys that aren't, a lot better than him. Guys that are like mid-level. Seems like he's able to handle those dudes. So look for a win by the Barbarian, probably by TKO, if not decision. Depends on how his cardio is. The McCrory fight, I think McCrory will probably get a submission. Next up, got Kendall Grove versus Jason Day. Definitely think this is Kendall's fight to win. I haven't been too impressed with Day, to be honest. I think he had the win over, I believe it was Alan Belcher, but other than that, he hasn't really showed much in the UFC. I think the UFC wants to get Kendall back on a winning track. He is a very popular fighter from his days in The Ultimate Fighter. And, he makes for pretty exciting fights as well. He had had a down year a couple years ago, lost a few fights in a row, but I think they're trying to get him back in the mix, and this is a fight to make him look impressive, and he should. So I think Kendall will win this fight, either by TKO or decisive decision. Next, we've got Brandon Vera versus Mike Pat. Similar to Kendall Grove, Vera's another guy in the UFC. I think they want him to look impressive in this fight. Want to try to get him back on the winning track. Another really popular fighter. Mike Pat, just don't see this fight very well for him in any aspects. I think Vera's got all the advantages, and I think Vera should win this fight by, I'm going to go with TKO. Probably second or third round. On to the main, or the televised cards. First up, we have Pete Sell versus Matt Brown. Surprised Pete Sell's in the UFC. He's only 2-4 in the UFC, but he is coming off a win over Josh Berkman, for what that's worth. Matt Brown, the Immortal from The Ultimate Fighter. I'm going to go with Sell in this one. To be honest, it'll probably be a stand-up fight. Brown may have the advantage there, but I think Sell's got the better ground game, obviously. Well, you know what? Hard to call. Sell's got a horrible record in the UFC. I'm not that impressed with Brown. On the feet, I think he may have an advantage there, and Sell does like to bang. But if Sell can get him down, I think he has an advantage. I'm going to take whatever. I was going to say, maybe for once, Sell will fight smart, take it to the ground like he did I think he fought a lot of the Berkman fight on the ground, and I'm going to go with Sell by decision. But, Brown could win this just as well. This is basically a coin flip. Next up, we got Gray Maynard against Jim Miller. Maynard's coming off the boring decision win over Rich Clemente. Awful fight. Just horrible. Jim Miller is coming off the quick first-round submission guillotine over Jake Rosholt. It just happened real recently, I believe last month. Interesting matchup here. Got two wrestlers. I think Miller's got a better submission game. I don't know who has the better stand-up, to be honest. I think this fight will look a lot like Gray Maynard versus Edgar. I think Maynard's just a bigger guy. May be able to get him to the ground, control him there. I think because Miller will probably be able to hold his own on the feet. It'll be interesting to see if Miller's got a better submission, in my opinion. I'm going to give Gray the benefit of the doubt and assume that he's done enough training at this point in his career. He's not going to get caught. And go with Maynard by a decision in what can either be a good fight or a really boring fight. Next up, we've got Mark Munoz versus Matt Hamill. Munoz is making his debut in the UFC. He's coming from the WC. It's 5-0. And he's going up against Matt Hamill, who's coming off the TKO loss to Rich Franklin. That's a fight I don't even think he should have been in. I know Franklin was moving up to the light heavyweight division, but I just think he was too experienced for Matt Hamill at that point in Hamill's career, and it showed throughout that fight. This fight, I'm going to go with Hamill. Munoz is undefeated, but like Hamill, he doesn't have a lot of experience. But Matt Hamill has been in the UFC for a while now. He's fought the better opposition, and he's beat the better opposition. It's a fight of two wrestlers, That's their strength for the most part. Hamill's probably got a little bit better stand-up. Not that I think his stand-up is all that much. It's pretty sloppy, and I mean, it's somewhat effective, but I don't think it's the most It's definitely not the best technique or form that he uses, but I think Matt Hamill should win this fight. He's also got a little bit of a size advantage, and I think he's probably got a strength advantage. I'm going to go with Matt Hamill by decision, because I think Munoz is a tough guy. I think he can make it all 3 rounds. Next up, we got co-main event. Gabriel Gonzaga against Shane Carwin. Gonzaga's coming out the first round KO over Josh Hendricks. Hendricks wasn't even in his league, to be honest. That was another fight where I think the UFC wanted to get Gonzaga an easy win, and it worked. Carwin's coming off the first round TKO over Neil Wayne. Neil Wayne, not really a big name there. Can't really say much over that win. This is a wrestler versus jiu-jitsu guy. Although both guys can have knockout power on the feet. I think Gonzaga's got the better stand-up overall, to be honest. I think he's got the better kicks. He's got the Muay Thai. I think Carwin just likes to throw hands. Gonzaga can do that as well. Both guys are huge guys. Gonzaga's 6'2", coming in around 250. Carwin 6'4", around 255. So a couple of big, strong guys. Really hard to call this fight. I'm going to go with Gonzaga. Like I said, I think he has a little bit better stand-up. The only thing is, and on the ground, I think Carwin obviously could put him there. He's the better wrestler. You know, he comes from a wrestling background. But Gonzaga's a highly decorated jiu-jitsu fighter. So I think actually that might be not in Carwin's best interest. I think he may get caught if he takes Gonzaga to the ground. The one way I could see Carwin winning this fight, aside from obviously a knockout, or maybe getting a decision and staying out of submissions, is Gonzaga seems to wilt sometimes when there's too much pressure or once he gets past the first round. He did that in the Verdun fight and he did that in the Couture fight. He kind of wilted after not having too much, after having some success actually early on. But come the second round in those fights, you know, he just seemed to gas out, tire out, got frustrated, and got handled pretty easily in both those fights. So if Carwin can frustrate him, you know, get to the second round, he may be able to take over and win this fight. But I'm going to go with Gonzaga because he's the more proven commodity at this point, in my opinion. On to the main event. We have Quentin Rampage Jackson against Keith the Dynamine Jardine. Rampage is coming off the awesome first round KO, brutal KO of Vanderlei Silva. Keith Jardine's coming off the decision win over Brandon Vera. Not the most exciting fight. I thought Rampage was going to get the rematch or the title shot against Rashad after the Silva knockout. But apparently they're going to put him against Jardine first, which is a good matchmaking in a way because Jardine is Rashad's teammate, so it makes for an interesting storyline. Jardine, even though he lost viciously to Vanderlei Silva not too long back, you know, he's a hot and cold fighter. He either looks really good and wins against like guys like Forrest Griffin and Chuck Liddell, or he looks really bad in losses against guys like Vanderlei and Houston Alexander. I'm going to go with Rampage in this fight by I don't know, either TKO or decision. Hard for me to say, to be honest. The couple advantages I think Jardine has, obviously leg kicks. We saw Rampage was really bothered by the leg kicks by Forrest Griffin in their fight. That was one of the things that helped Forrest win the fight, his leg kicks, and Jardine is known for having great leg kicks. So I think he may be able to have a huge advantage there and really work on Rampage's leg kicks. Hopefully Rampage worked on the defense with that. Also, I think Jardine will have a really good game plan. He's from Greg Jackson's camp, as I mentioned. Greg Jackson's guys seem to be on a roll lately in the UFC and in the WEC for the most part. Seems to do really well with the game plans, really mapping out the guy's strength, weaknesses, and how his fighters can take advantage of them. So Jardine may be good at that. However, I just think Rampage is a superior fighter overall. I think he has a stronger fighter. I think he's strong, has more punching power. I think he's going to be able to push this fight as long as he doesn't get his legs taken out from those kicks. I see Rampage really imposing his will in this fight for the most part, putting on the pressure, taking Jardine at will if he wants to, controlling him for the most part. I also think Rampage's obviously got the much better chin. I think he can stun Jardine if he does and gets him on the ground. I think he'll finish it with the ground and pound because Rampage is pretty sick with the ground and pound. Got some pretty vicious ground and pound. Either way, I see Rampage winning this fight either by a late stoppage or unanimous decision. But it should be a pretty good main event. And this isn't the most stacked card, but, you know, hopefully it'll turn out to be pretty exciting like UFC 95 was. Anyways, I'll probably be back on Sunday to give my afterthoughts. But until then, I'm out of here.